أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة.
Wherever you may be, death will reach you, even if you are in built-up fortresses. As a certainty, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
كل نفس ذائقة
every soul shall
الموت.
taste death. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In the Kitaabul-Janaaiz, the rulings of the Janazah, regarding the ghusl of the mayyit, we mention a number of things which is specific to washing the mayyit and which is important to observe with regards to washing the mayyit. Just to recap, inshallah, when the mayyit is there and we have to start and wash this person, where do we start? From the previous duruus, from the previous lessons, where do we start? We start with al-istibra. What is istibra? Istibra is istinja, same thing? La. Releasing or getting rid of any excess, whether it may be feces or urine that is still in the tract, by sitting the mayyit in a sitting position, lifting the back up to an almost sitting position, not in a sitting position but up, in between, and squeezing on the stomach, slightly pressing down onto the stomach and releasing that while throwing water, washing away any impurities that is excreted. Thereafter we make istinja. Right. When making istinja, now from the things that we did not mention, and that will come in when we do the practical, inshallah ta'ala, from the legislation of our country currently, and which would also be something recommended shar'an on the basis of the current situation, is that they have made it an obligation upon the ghasil, upon the mughassil, the one who's washing the mayyit, to wear gloves. And he must wear gloves. And this is to protect the person from picking up any germ that could possibly be contained in the urine or feces or in a wound or anything else on the body of the mayyit. And in cases where there is, like in today's time, there's HIV and there's other blood diseases which is carried over in the blood, and then there's also some diseases we know is carried in the urine or others in the stool. So the person who is washing the mayyit, he has to take these precautions. The Sharia then would also recommend that you wear these gloves. In the Sharia, it is necessary for you to wrap your hand. And what we do is we tear from the shroud, from the kafan of the mayyit, we tear some pieces to use as cloths for istinja, to clean the person, to clean the mayyit. So that is to protect ourselves, your hand from coming into contact with the aura of the mayyit as well as with the najasa. And there is no physical contact with your hand onto the najasa. So the Sharia has legislated for you to wrap your hand with the shrouding. So the glove is even more astar. The glove is even more covering and more protective than just wrapping the hand with that. So you will wear the gloves, and on top of that you will wrap the hand with the cloth in order to clean the private parts of the mayyit. After istibra and istinja, right? What comes next? The washing. How? Where do we begin? You start with the right side and you start with, when you make ghusl, what do you start with? With wudu. When you make ghusl, you start with wudu. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said regarding his daughter, that wash her and start with the right side and the places of wudu. Start with the right side and the limbs of wudu. In other words, give the mayyit a wudu. طيب. Throughout the process of washing, we have to take care to not expose the awrah of the mayyit throughout the washing. For the male, the awrah that must be covered is what? From navel to knee, right? Including navel and knee. This is the awrah of the male, so that area must be covered throughout the ghusl. For the females, when they are washing a female, from the neck down, right, to the middle of the shin. Right, from the neck down to the middle of the shin must be covered. طيب. Another point that we mentioned, when the mayyit is a female, when the mayyit is a female, right, is it allowed for any males to wash the body of a female? Is there any exemption? The husband. Only exception is the husband. The husband is allowed to wash his wife. Right? Likewise, when it comes to the males, the only female allowed to wash him is the wife or his wives. Right? Like Aisha Radiyallahu anha said that, you know, if we go back to what has already occurred, no one would wash Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam except his wives. Right? But the matter preceded and it was already done. Right? She said this afterwards, then thinking back. So no one would have washed him except his wives. Right? If the mayyit is a muhrim, meaning a person who was in ihram, whether on Hajj or Umrah, is there any special things that must be observed with regards to the ghusl of that person? No perfume. Nothing scented. Right? Nothing scented. اغسلوه بماء وسدر. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, wash him with water and cedar. وَكَفِّنُوا فِي ثَوْبَيْهِ. And wrap him in his two garments, yani in his ihram garments, his izar and his rida. طيب. Anything else specific to him? Head and face must not be covered. He said, لا تطيبوا أو لا تحنطوا, don't perfume him. And he also said, لا تخمروا رأسا ولا وجها, do not cover or wrap his head or his face. فإنه يبعث يوم القيامة ملبيا, because he will be raised يوم القيامة with talbiyah. Right? The woman, yani, the hair of the woman is awrah. The hair of the woman is awrah. What must be shown of the woman in ihram? She's not allowed to cover her face and her hands. Now obviously with the takfir, only the hands are in the kafan, so the hands are covered, but the face remains open. Right? The men face and head is open completely. And the woman is covered completely, but the face which is covered, which is uncovered in ihram, it remains uncovered. Right? طيب. Now we know also the ruling with regards to women in ihram not covering their face, that when there are ajnabi males, they are allowed to put something over their face, even in ihram. They are in ihram and there are strange males coming around, they can use their headgear and cover their face, and then they leave it again. Right? So if the woman is going to be, there's going to be males, which it shouldn't be the case, because the men wash the men and the women wash the women. So after the washing, the janazah is taken away. So when the janazah is taken, it's completely covered. And when it's put in the hole, then the covering is open. So the woman, she will still be covered. And she will still be covered, but the head won't be wrapped, won't be tied up, closed. And when she's put in the hole, the face is uncovered. The man, when he's put in the hole, the face and head completely will be uncovered. Right, but we're not going to carry him like that. And we're going to cover him whilst we're carrying the mayyit. Right. With regards to the ghusl, we mentioned, or I think we stopped with mentioning that the husband is allowed to wash the wife and the wife the husband. That was the last that we did with regards to the theory of the washing. Fine. As for those who wash and the virtue of washing the mayyit, the virtue of washing the mayyit. Washing the mayyit contains great reward. It contains great reward if the person fulfills two conditions. And there is reward in it with conditions. So it doesn't mean if he just washes the mayyit, then he automatically gets the reward. But he has to fulfill the conditions in order to receive the reward. Right. طيب. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes clear that the first condition is that he conceals whatever he sees from that mayyit which may be alarming or displeasing. He conceals it. Now we mentioned this previously, just briefly, that whatever he sees which is really alarming or not good signs, he shouldn't speak of it. He should conceal it, and he should especially not tell the relatives of the deceased. I saw this and I saw that, and nor tell anyone else. So the first condition, he must conceal the mayyit, and he must conceal the signs that he saw that might not be good signs. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, now in most cases and in many cases, al-mughassil is the same person who will do the takfeen. The one who makes the ghusl will do the kafan. And in some cases, that person is also the one who will do the burial. Some cases. Right? Now, this hadith, very important hadith regarding this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Man ghassala musliman fakatama alayhi ghafara Allahu lahu 40 marra." He said, whoever washes a Muslim deceased, and katama alayhi, he conceals him, and he conceals whatever he saw from him, Allah forgives him 40 times over. Allah Ta'ala forgives him 40 times over. Right? So the first condition, he conceals anything bad that he saw from the mayyit. وَمَنْ حَفَرَ لَهُ فَأَجَنَّهُ أُجْرِ عَلَيْهِ كَأَجْرِ مَسْكَنٍ أَسْكَنَهُ إِيَّاهِ. So whoever digs his grave for him, right? And he digs a good grave, does it well, right? Then he will be rewarded as if he gave him a house to stay in. He will be rewarded as if he gives him a house to stay in until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because that mayyit remain buried until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until he's resurrected. So the one who dug that hole for him, and he did a good job, and he did it with sincerity, for the sake of Allah, then Allah Ta'ala rewards him as if he housed this mayyit until Qiyamah. وَمَنْ كَفَنَهُ, and the one who kafans him, who shrouds him, كَسَاهُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, the one who shrouds him, Allah Ta'ala will clothe him Yawm al-Qiyamah with the clothing of Jannah. Allah will clothe him with the clothing of Jannah. So the reward for these actions are great. But his conditions attached to it. The first thing when he said washing the mayit, he said katama alayh. He conceals him. He conceals him. So this applies to all three cases. Because many times you hear someone mentioning a bad thing they saw when washing the mayit. Or you hear someone mentioning something they saw when shrouding the mayit. The kafan dun. Or you hear someone mentioning something they saw in the grave. Right? And they expose this to others. Now I remember once a person, due to ignorance, a young man, when opening the kafan in the hole, he did more than what was required, due to ignorance. And you can see his ignorance, because not only did he do more than what was required, he was only supposed to loosen the ties. So only do you loosen the ties, make sure it's loose. Right? He loosened the ties and he opened. And this young person was very disturbed, because the person they buried was his parent. And he said, Wallahi, that was not my father we buried. This is what he said. It was traumatic. He said, that was not my father we buried. And he described that his father's face had gone pitch black. His father's face had gone black. Now, due to ignorance, he didn't know that he was not supposed to open it. And due to ignorance, he didn't know that he was not supposed to say anything if he sees any bad signs. So this applies in all those situations, that he must conceal the mayit, whether he's washing him, whether he's kafaning him, or whether he is burying him. Anything bad which he sees, he must conceal, and he mustn't divulge this unto others. So perhaps the person didn't die in a good state. This subhanallah, it has occurred. I remember even a mother telling me, when she's seeing her son, own son. This was because when they were washing the child, the mother, she wanted to see her son, and she went in, and due to ignorance, didn't tell her that, if you see something, don't divulge this. And she came out, and she was crying, and she said, my son died in darkness. The son died in darkness, and she said his face was dark. And he looked, it was alarming, it was traumatic for the mother again in this case. So, before we allow anyone even into the room where you're making ghusl, if somebody insists he wants to come in, number one, no more than the required amount of people should enter. If it takes 3 people to do the washing, you need one maybe to carry the buckets in and out by the door, and then need 2 people to do the washing, actually one helping the other one, then 3 should be in the room. If they need 4, okay, 4. But not everyone wants to come and have a look and wants to stand there, even if it's family, should be allowed into the room. Because people, like I say, number one, they are not knowledgeable. And so they'll go and they will speak about things which they saw, which is not permissible for us to speak about. So the person must conceal the mayit in all these conditions. The second condition that he must meet in order to receive this reward is that he must have ikhlas. He must have ikhlas, he must be sincere. He must not be doing this for a measly price of the dunya. He must not be doing this because the slavat is good, as they say. Alright? He must not be doing this because he wants to be praised or because he wants to be thanked and mentioned. That people must say, Fulan, he's good at this and he's this and he's that. And sometimes you hear people praising themselves all the time about what they do. This is the riya and sum'ah. And this nullifies ikhlas. It nullifies sincerity. And this means that the person also, he forfeits the reward. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّ أَحَدًا. And this is from the ayat which indicate that we should have total ikhlas in our actions. That whoever longs for the meeting with his Lord, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he should do righteous deeds and not ascribe any partner in the worship of his Lord. In other words, not do it for anything else. He does not do the righteous deed for the sake of someone else. The righteous deed is the deed which is done in accordance with the sunnah. Right? But then Allah Ta'ala also adds, وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّ أَحَدًا, that he must not make shirk also in that action. So he does it for no one except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then also, we know that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said regarding all actions, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. متفق عليه. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, all the actions are judged by the intentions. And every person will get what he intended. So if his migration is to Allah and His Messenger, then his migration is to Allah and His Messenger. And he will get what he intended, what was his niyyah. And if his migration was for some dunya he wanted to attain, or a woman he wanted to marry, then his hijrah is to that which he migrated to. Hijrah is an act of ibadah. If you made hijrah for the sake of Allah, you will find that. That will be your reward. You will make hijrah to Allah and His Rasul. But if you made hijrah, which is an act of ibadah, but you made it for some other reason, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said his hijrah is to that. In other words, his reward is not with Allah. He did it for that, that is what he will get. Right? So if he does not have ikhlas in this, then he nullifies his reward. So that forgiveness 40 times over, this is for the person who has sincerity, and for the person who conceals whatever aib, deficiency he sees on the side of the mayyit. Right, with these two conditions, you will gain the reward of being forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, then what must also be noted for those who are washing? This is for those who are washing up. What must also be noted is that it is recommended for them after washing the mayyit to make a ghusl themselves. It's recommended for the mughassil after washing the mayyit that he makes a ghusl. Right? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "Man ghassala mayyitan falyaghtasil, wa man hamalahu falyatawadda." He said, whoever washes the mayyit, then he should make ghusl. فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ, he should make ghusl. وَمَنْ حَمَلَهُ فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ, and whoever carries him, and he carries the janazah, then فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ, he must make wudu. Whoever washes the mayyit must take ghusl, and whoever carried the mayyit must make wudu. Right. Now in this hadith there is a command. There is a command of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as we know, normally the command indicates that the matter is wajib. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam orders you to do something, then it is wajib, unless there is proof to indicate that it is recommended and not wajib. And if you have proof that no, it's recommended and it's not wajib, then you can say it is recommended, otherwise it remains wajib. The first of the proofs that show that it is recommended, mustahab, and not wajib, is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he said, لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي غُسْلِ مَيِّتِكُمْ غُسْلٌ. He said, it is not obligatory on you, after washing your mayyit, to make a ghusl. It is not obligatory upon you, after washing your mayyit, to make a ghusl. Right? He said, فَإِنَّ مَيِّتَكُمْ لَيْسَ بِنَجِسٍ. Because your mayit is not najis. Right? He said, it is not wajib, it's not obligatory upon you after washing your mayit to make a ghusl because your mayit is not najis. Right? He says, فَحَسْبُكُمْ أَن تَغْسِلُوا أَيْدِيَكُمْ. So it suffices you to wash your hands. After washing the mayit, it is sufficient if you wash your hands. So the first hadith we said, فَلْيَغْتَسِلْ. This hadith now is a proof that that doesn't mean it's wajib. That is a recommendation. That is a recommendation, that is mustahab. Right? And not wajib. Another hadith or athar is carried the statement of Abdullah ibn Umar Radiyallahu anhu, when he said, كُنَّا نُغَسِلَ الْمَيِّتِ فَمِنَّا مَنْ يَغْتَسِلْ وَمِنَّا مَنْ لَا يَغْتَسِلْ. Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, we used to wash the mayyit, and some of us would make ghusl, and some of us wouldn't make ghusl. In other words, it is not wajib, it is recommended. So whoever makes the ghusl, yeah, he is rewarded. Whoever doesn't make the ghusl, khalas, can wash his hands. It's not necessary, it's not wajib on him to make a ghusl after washing the mayyit. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Al-mu'min la yanjus. The believer is never impure. The believer is never impure. Yani, hayyan wa mayyitan. Whether alive or dead. Whether alive or dead, the believer is not najis. Right? He is not impure. So this means it is not wajib upon the person to make a ghusl, but it is recommended for him to do so. One of the things we should note, لا يشرع غسل الشهيد قتيل المعركة. It is not legislated to wash the shaheed of the battlefield. Remember, we took a number of shuhada. The shaheed through burning, through drowning, through the building falling on him, through stomach disease or stomach ailment. Number of shuhada, the woman in childbirth, the woman after childbirth, all shaheed. But the shaheed that has a different ruling to the general mayyit is the shaheedul ma'arakah, the shaheed of the battlefield. And he has a different ruling. And the first thing is that it is not legislated to wash him. You don't make ghusl of that shaheed. Right? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that whoever is killed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said regarding them, idfanuhum fi dima'ihim. Bury them with their blood on them. Bury them with their blood on them. Because they will be resurrected Yawm al-Qiyamah, whilst the blood is flowing, the color being the color of blood, but the smell being the smell of musk. And that people will see this is a person who died in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was killed fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So the shaheedul ma'arakah is not washed ghuslul mayyit. He is not given the ghusl of the mayyit. طيب. Also, the narration of Abu Barza, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان في مغزى له فأفاء الله عليه فقال لأصحابه هل تفقدون من أحد؟ قالوا نعم فلان وفلان وفلان. ثم قال هل تفقدون من أحد؟ قالوا لا لكني أفقد جليبيبا. You know the qissa of Julaybib. And when Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم after the battle, he asked the Sahaba, do you miss anyone? And remember, Julaybib was a Sahabi that no one took much note of. He was someone that he was not valued. He was not of the people noted. He was not handsome or beautiful or rich or anything like this. Just a normal, ordinary Sahabi. And after the battle, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he asked them, do you miss anyone? And they said, we miss so and so, so and so, so and so. And that these people are probably martyred. And the Nabi said, but I still miss someone. Do you miss anyone? And they kept mentioning. And then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I miss Julaybib. Don't see him. Right? And he said, Fatlubuhu, look for him. Look for him. So they went and they started looking on the battlefield for Julaybib Radiyallahu anhu. فَطُلِبَ فِي الْقَتْلَى فَوَجَدُوهُ. So they looked amongst those killed and they found him إِلَى جَنْبِ سَبْعَةٍ قَتَلَهُمْ ثُمَّ قَتَلُوهُ. And they found him amidst 7 mushriks that he killed, and they killed him. And he fought with 7 and he killed 7 of them, but they also killed him. Right? And when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to him and saw him, he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood and he said, قَتَلَ سَبْعَةً مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ فَقَتَلُوهُ هَذَا مِنِّي وَأَنَا مِنْهُ هَذَا مِنِّي وَأَنَا مِنْهُ هَذَا مِنِّي وَأَنَا مِنْهُ. He said, he killed 7 of the mushrikeen and they killed him. He is from me and I am from him. He is from me and I am from him. He is from me and I am from him. And he repeated this, subhanallah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he then put out his hands for the Julaybib and kept him himself, carried him, and they made the hole for him and he placed him in his hole. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam buried him and he did not wash him. He buried him on the battlefield and he did not wash him, no ghusl. Right? So it shows that the Qatilul Ma'araka, the one killed in the battle, he is buried as he is and he is not washed. Right? Because the other hadith, like I said, he will get up Yawm al-Qiyamah and the blood will still be flowing from his wound and it will smell like musk. Then also regarding another battle from Abdullah ibn Zubayr Radiyallahu anhu, regarding the qissa of Uhud and the istishhad of Hanzala ibn Abi Amir, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you remember the nickname of Hanzala? Al-Ghasil. Al-Ghasil. And the one washed. He was washed by the Malaika. He was washed by the Malaika. Right. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he got him, after they were looking for him, and they got him, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to the Sahaba, Inna sahibakum tughassiluhu al-malaika. Your companion has been washed by the Malaika. He has been washed by the Malaika. فَاسْأَلُوا صَاحِبَتَهُ. And he said to them, go and ask his companion. صاحبته, his female companion, his wife, go and ask. Right? فَقَالَ خَرَجَ وَهُوَ جُنُوب. So he said he went out answering the call to jihad whilst he was junub. He was in such a hurry. And when he heard the call being made to go out and fight in the way of Allah Ta'ala, he ran out. And he didn't have the chance to make ghusl janabah, because he feared that he would lag behind. If he had to still make ghusl, the army would go out without him. So fearing that he would not be responding to the call of Allah and the call of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he ran out without taking ghusl of janabah. And on the battlefield, when they missed him, they were looking for him. For Hanzala, they looked for the body of Hanzala and they couldn't find it. And then as they searched and they searched away from the others, they found the body of Hanzala. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to them, when they came to the body, he said to them, the Malaika washed the body of Hanzala, just go and ask his wife. Imagine, min dalail al-nubuwah, from the signs of prophethood. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't know what happened the night before. And he didn't know the unseen, he didn't know what happened in the house of Hanzala. But he said, just go ask his wife. Right? So they went and they got confirmation that yes, he left the house while he was junub. He left the house while he was junub, and so the malaika, they washed him. Some of the ulama, they say, here is also a dalil that it is not legislated for us to wash the mayit of the ma'araka even if he's junub. Even if someone was junub and he left for the battlefield, it is not legislated for us to wash him. This is a specific virtue that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon Hanzala al-Ghasil Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So the malaika, they washed him because he was ghusl. They washed him because he was junub. So when washing the mayit, inshallah ta'ala, all these matters must be observed. When we say that the Shahidul Ma'araka must not be washed, this refers to the Shahidul Ma'araka, not the Shaheed who died by burning or drowning or a building falling on him or any of these cases. Now here people get confused. People get confused because they say, but this person is Shaheed and this person burnt. The reason we don't wash the body that burnt with water is because we might just wash away some of the skin or damage the body because the body has been burnt by fire. So there's a different reason why you are not washing the body that was burnt. Right? Or sometimes the body that drowned, the person that drowned and the body was lost at sea maybe, or they found the body a couple of days later. So the body has started decomposing. So it is for this reason that we don't wash the body off with water, and not because of that person being a shaheed. We confirm and we affirm that the Muslim who dies in that state, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he's a shaheed, but he is not the Shahidul Ma'araka. He's not the shaheed of the battlefield. Right? So in a normal situation, say this, the person burnt, right, and he died. He burnt and he died. But the body, there is no danger to the body. The most of the body is still intact and can be washed. Then we would wash that part. Right? We would wash the part that can be washed. Right? Or just make tayammum. Right? So the reason behind not washing him is not because of him being a shaheed. It's because of the state of the body. Another person might die a normal death, and because of the body decomposing, maybe due to the climate or whatever the case may be, faster, and by the time they discover this person is dead, the body is decomposing. Even in that case, we may leave the washing and just make tayammum. Right? We may leave the washing and make tayammum. Right? And this is not because the person is shaheed. This is because the principle is ittaqullaha mastata'tum. Fear Allah as much as you are able to. So with every act of ibadah you do as much as you are able to. And what you are not able to, then the Sharia has always given us a concession for that and a rukhsa for that. So we will take the rukhsa in that case. Inshallah ta'ala, there's more specific things towards or regarding the washing of the mayyit, and this is special cases, like in the case of murder, in the case where blood is flowing from the body. It's not a shaheed, not of the battlefield, but the person might have been murdered. Might have been defending his wealth, so it would still be shaheed in that sense, but we find that the body is bleeding. Then the Mughasilin have different methods of stopping the blood. Some of them use ice, to clot the blood, make the water extra cold, and by throwing ice in the water, and sometimes packing ice in the wound, right? And then using things such as maizena, meal, flour. Some people use clay. This other spicy bori. They use different things in order to stop the bleeding, right? And this is a matter of yani ijtihad of the mughassil. Here the mughassil, he does what he thinks is best to stop the bleeding, so that the kafan, the shroud, is not defiled with blood. So that the shroud is not covered in blood if the person is still bleeding. So he tries to stop the bleeding by clotting the blood, by putting these things there which will then clot the blood or close up the wound, even if it is temporarily. Right? If the bleeding is so much that it continues, you can even use plastic. Person is already, ghusl of the person is made, you can use plastic, cover the wound with the plastic and tie it, right, so that the blood doesn't come out and defile the mayit's kafan. Right? The same issue is applied with regards to salasul bawl or gha'it, with regards to stool or urine that flows continuously. When there's stool or urine that doesn't stop flowing, so every movement of the mayit, like whilst you're washing, you note that there's still stool coming out or urine comes out all the time. Right? This happens often in cases where there was a stomach disease. And you will find that the person, there's a lot of excretion still in the tract. So when the person is washed continuously, stool may come out. Every time you throw water, you will smell, and sometimes you'll even see that there's filth in the water. So in this case, and we will show when we do the practical, in this case a piece of cotton wool is taken, right? And it is made into something to prop the hole. That you put something like a plug. You put something here to plug the exit, so that it doesn't flow out. Put it there to plug the exit so that it doesn't flow out. Right? Some people, they use a piece of the cotton wool, like a square, right? And they put it under the mayit and then fold it in between the legs, almost like a nappy. Like that, almost like a nappy. So this will then also be an extra cover for the aura of the mayit, and just in case there is any excretion that is removed after the ghusl. Right? Because after the ghusl, now if the ghusl is finished, and then you notice that there is still some excretion coming out, what do? You're going to wash the mayit all over again? No, you're not. You're just going to wash the place, the private part, and give him a wudu. Give him a wudu again. But you must then put something to stop it from happening the whole time. Right? So there you will see that you'll take a piece of cotton wool and use it as a plug, or you'll take a piece of cotton wool on top of that, if necessary, and use it as almost like a nappy, put it under the buttocks of the mayit, and through over the private part of the mayit, right in between the legs. So this is astar al-awra, this is more covering of the awra, and it is also to conceal if anything should come out, because you will perfume that thing. You will put on from the camphor, and you put on the hanut or the myang, so you will perfume it, and you will cover the mayit. So if there's any excretion, then that will cover it. That will cover it so that you don't get a bad smell coming from the mayit after you have washed the mayit. Right? So this, inshallah ta'ala, we will illustrate how to do this and how to make this. Point to note, this is the only reason for which we use cotton wool. This is the only reason that we will use cotton wool. We use it for necessity. We use it because there's a need now to use it. It is not from the sunnah to place cotton wool all over the mayit. It's not from the sunnah to place cotton wool on the back, on the knees, on the feet, on the head, on the face. This is not from the sunnah. Right? Nowhere in a hadith will you find this, and nowhere from the Sahaba or the Atba or the Tabi'een and those who follow them in righteousness will you find that they use cotton wool to put on all the places of sujood. Or they put perfume on the places of sujood. That is known. Put the perfume, the hanut or the attar which you're going to use, put that on the places of sujood. But not cotton wool all over the mayit. Right?
The armpits and
Nothing. Nothing. Not under the armpits, not in the elbows, not on the face, nothing. Right? For the woman, yani, a piece can be used to cover the breast. A piece can be used to cover the breast like a piece is used to cover the aura. Right? And this is because males will be placing the body over in the grave. However, there is at no point any time that the males touch the body in such a way. So there's no need for that either. There's no actual need for it. Right, to put the piece of cotton wool over the, but it is astar. It is more covering for the lady. Right? However, any other excess pieces like on the back, on the arms, on the knees, on the face, this is not from the sunnah. It is not from the sunnah to put cotton wool in the kafan except the cotton wool we use for that necessity. This is the point. It is not sunnah to put cotton wool in the kafan except what we use for the necessity, which is then yani to cover the aura or to prevent any excretion from coming out onto the kafan and defiling the kafan of the mayyit. That's the only reason we use the cotton wool for. So, you know, some people they actually get angry when they have very little cotton wool in their packages of you know the parcel, the kafan, the kapok, and there's little cotton wool and they actually because they believing they must put all this cotton wool all over the place. Right? And this is not from the sunnah. This is not from the sunnah. Right? So we shouldn't do it, inshallah ta'ala. In fact, it should be in our wasiyah. It should be in your wasiyah that no cotton wool should be used in your kafan, in your shrouding, except what is used for necessity. Except what is used for a necessity. Another thing, and we're coming to the tatfeen, but these are from the details. It is not from the sunnah or legislated that any headgear be put on the head of the mayyit. It's not legislated to put any headgear on the head of the mayyit. Right? A kufiya or a turban. Right, which has also become a norm, and this has been taken from the Sufis, and it has been made general practice. Right, and you'll find they take someone who never wore these things his whole life, and then writes it from a turban. This is not even legislated. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was kafan, he was shrouded, right, and there was no amama, no qami, yani there was no imama, no turban or headgear put on the head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? No headgear put on the head of Rasulullah in his kafan. So this is not from the sunnah. It looks nice. Because it looks nice. But it's not from the sunnah. I've seen, with some of the Indian Janaaiz, I don't know if everyone does it. I've only seen it amongst our Indian brothers. They even put the kahal on the eyes. They put the turban on and they put the black kuhl al-ithmit on the eyes. Right? Not from the sunnah. We're not there to beautify the mayyit. You know, like they do in the funeral parlors. You know, we're not. That's not what we're there to do. We're there to do what is legislated, which is to make ghusl of the mayyit so that the mayyit is prepared in a good state when he is put in his grave. He is purified, he is cleaned, and then he is put in his grave. Not to beautify his appearance. Right, so we don't put on this black surma on the eyes, or put on a turban, nice turban for him, or nice kufiya, or anything like this. Right, it's just the kafan, and the cotton wool is only for necessity, and we finish. We close him up and we go. And inshallah ta'ala, I think we're going to finish all the theory. And now we're going to do the kafan also. The points on the kafan. Maybe two lessons. Maybe the points on the kafan before we do it. Because when we do the ghusl, It's going to be since we do the ghusl now, and then we do theory on the kafan again, and then we must get a katal again to do the kafan again. So we're going to do all the theory, finish, and then we'll get the katal and do the whole process. That is going to be much easier. Because we have to borrow one. We have to borrow the katal and lino errands. So inshallah ta'ala in our next class we're going to go to the points of the kafan. How it should be, how many lifaf, how many English, how many sheets it should be, and inshallah ta'ala how it should be done. طيب ونكتفي بهذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. There's a question: if janaza leaves the house at 11 in the morning, is the ruh still in the house the evening plus for 3 days still? Right? Firstly, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, first let us say what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks regarding those who died. And Allah tabarak wa ta'ala says, وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَىٰ يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. That behind them is a barrier, a barzakh that they can't transgress. They can't come through until the day of resurrection. Now when does a ruh enter the barzakh? When we die, we enter the barzakh. The barzakh is defined in the Sharia as the state between death and qiyamah. This is the barzakh. We enter the barzakh when we die, and we will come out of the barzakh yawm al-qiyamah for judgment. We will be resurrected and judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we'll go to Jannah or Jahannam. Na'udhu billahi minan nar. So the barzakh, once you die, you enter the barzakh. Your soul comes out and you leave the physical realm. Right? And now you enter the barzakh. And there is no return from the barzakh. The Qur'an says, إِلَىٰ يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ, until the day they are resurrected. Until the day they are resurrected. So the first thing is that saying that this mayyit is coming back into the house, or this mayyit stays in the house, this is now against the Qur'an. This is now against what Allah Ta'ala says. Allah says the barzakh is there until Qiyamah. You can't come back. Only Qiyamah is going to be resurrected. Then you'll come out of the barzakh. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, what happens to the ruh? And when the ruh comes out of the body, and remember this is a lengthy hadith, what happens to the person when he dies. The Nabi described the case of the believer and the case of the disbeliever in detail. So he said when he dies, the malaika is the believer. The malaika, they take that soul and they go up through the samawat, they go up through the heavens until they reach the 7th heaven. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then orders them to put his records in the highest record and to return him to the body and to return him to the earth, because from it we created them and to it we return them, and from it we will bring them forth another time. Right? So the ruh is then brought back to the body in the grave, and there Munkar and Nakir comes to him, and they make him sit up and they question him, Ma Rabbuk, Ma Dinuk, Man al-Rajul alladhi bu'itha fikum. And he says, Rabbi Allah wa Din al-Islam wa hadha Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? And this person is given, because he's answered correctly, a bed of Jannah in his grave. And a doorway to Jannah is open for him. And his righteous deeds comes and keeps him company. And he says, Ya Allah, let the hour come, let the hour come. Yani he waits for Qiyamah. He waits for Qiyamah. Where? In the barzakh, where he has a bed of Jannah, and where there's a door open for him, yani towards the Jannah, where the fragrance gets him, and the pleasant yani breeze reaches him, and where his Subhanallah, his space around him is as far as his eyes can see. And his righteous deeds are there in the form of a beautiful man, a beautiful companion, keeping him company until Qiyamah. This is the ruh of the believer. So where does this come from, that ruh is in the house? Where did it come from? Where do these stories come from? These are khurafat. These are baseless superstitions. These are baseless superstitions. Now, some people, on the basis of that, they add more superstitions to the deen. So the first superstition, the ruh is still in the house. But the ruh left the body, and then the body went to the graveyard. Where did the ruh go? Went with the malaika. They took it. Malakul Maut ordered it to come out. The angels of Rahmah, he was a believer, took him through the samawat. So he's not in the house. Where is he reconnected with his body? Where is he taken back to his body? In the maqbara, at the grave, where Munkar and Nakir is going to question him. Where is his bed of Jannah made for him to wait for Qiyamah? In the barzakh. Right, in the barzakh. So where is there any dalil whatsoever from the Shari'atul Islamiyah that the body is in the house? Afwan, that the ruh is in the house. No dalil whatsoever. No. Okay, that is not our masala now. That's a different masala. We will get to that masala. This masala is with regards to the question that the ruh is in the house. And now some add that it remains there for 3 days. It remains there for 3 days. Now when is Munkar and Nakir going to question him? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made clear to us that the person is going to be questioned in the grave. He said to the Sahaba standing at the grave, he says to them, Istaghfiru li akhikum wa sallallahu lahu at-tathbit. Make istighfar for your brother. Ask Allah to forgive him. And ask Allah to make him firm. فَإِنَّهُ الْآنَ يُسْأَلُ. Because he's now going to be questioned. He's now going to be questioned. Where? In the grave. Right? So there is no basis whatsoever to say that the ruh is in the house. This is a baseless superstition, and it's like those stories that people convey one to the other, and we just believe it, and it carries on. Right? So there is no basis for this whatsoever. Other people add to this. I want to make clear because I experienced this. On account of this, some people even added that this means you can't sweep the house for 3 days. You can't sweep the house, imagine, for 3 days because the ruh is still in the house. Now even if the ruh was in the house, what does it have to do with sweeping? Another baseless superstition. Gaan ze die ruh uit by die deur vee? Subhanallah. It's got nothing to do with sweeping. So upon superstition, they build more superstition. You know, and this is how it goes on. I remember being very scared. I went to a janaza, a family member in Melbourne, and I was young, and we had to sleep there because I had to go the night before. Astaghfirullah al-Azim, I had to go to recite. Right? I had to go to bacha. Heel die nacht bacha. Right? En die oggend ook nog bacha. Tot die janaza nog gaan in die huis. But then they told us, you know, the ruh stays in the house. Ya salam. I'm sleeping there. I was scared, wallah, I was scared all night. I don't remember sleeping a wink. Even when they gave me a chance, okay, can you sleep a little? No, I'm laying there, I'm awake. Because this ruh is walking around here in the house. No, subhanallah. It's baseless superstitions. And the same story, don't sweep the house. Next day, janazah is finished. We go back to the family members, we're there, and some of the older aunties and omas, you know, they say, nee, moet nie vee nie. I'm listening also now, why mustn't you sweep? Die ruh is nog in die huis, ja, salam, nog altyd. And now you remain scared. Oh, this ruh is still here. Subhanallah. This, wallah, it just prolongs the sadness, prolongs the grief, you know, prolongs the whole process. And it's due to ignorance, right? And baseless superstitions. The next question is, can you bacha Surah Yasin at the Mayit. It is not sunnah to recite any Qur'an at the Mayit. It's not sunnah to recite Qur'an over the Mayit at all. It's not sunnah to recite Qur'an over the Mayit at all. Nor is it found from any of the Sahaba. Not from any of the Sahaba. So this is an innovation. This is an innovation. It is a bid'ah to recite for the Mayit. And particularly what is mentioned in Surah Yasin. And this has been specified to recite over the Mayit on the basis of a weak hadith. A weak hadith which says, لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَلْبٍ وَقَلْبُ الْقُرْآنِ يَاسِينَ فَقْرَؤُوهَا عَلَى مُوتَاكُمْ. Everything has a heart, and the heart of the Qur'an is Yasin, so read it over your dead. Right? This is a weak hadith, number one. It's a weak hadith, baseless hadith. The second point is, Mautakum doesn't refer to your dead, but you're dying. You know, when someone is sick, you have to read Qur'an for him. It relieves him of the sickness, it relieves him of the pain. Without specifying Yasin either. Right? As for specifying Yasin for the person who is dead, then we read in Surah Yasin, لِيُنْذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. To warn those who are alive and to fulfill the word against the disbelievers. Are we reading it to someone who is dead? Reading to warn those who are alive, but we're reading it to someone who is dead. We're doing the opposite of what we are reading. Doing the opposite of what we are reading. Why? Because we don't know. Because we just act on whatever we hear. If someone said, we in our zeal, we wanted to do. And this is why it is so important to realize that zeal and sincerity without knowledge is no use. You have that zeal, you will hasten to do deeds, but then because you don't have knowledge, you don't know whether the deeds you are doing is correct. How many of us, I mentioned now, come fetch me to bacha at the janazah. I used to go. When I was young, this was the norm. I used to pull up here, right one, and move to bacha. It's a janazah, right, I must go bacha. Allahu Akbar, I'm full of zeal, doing a very good deed. MashaAllah, I'm going to go eat for the mayit. This is what we are taught. We were taught, this is a great deed you are doing, this is a good thing you are doing, this is a sunnah. So we rush to do it. You know, and only when we learn our deen, we find out that, you know what, this is not even a sunnah. This is an innovation. This is against the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So now we find out that our zeal and our sincerity without knowledge, it led us to trouble. You know, it led us to doing things which were not legislated with sincere intentions. No. Therefore, al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amali. Like Imam Bukhari says in his Sahih, knowledge comes before speech and actions. Knowledge comes first. So, inshallah ta'ala, regarding not only this, but in all our ibadat, every act of worship that we do, it's important to learn how to do it. To learn what is sunnah. How did Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam do it? You know, what is its shurut? What is its conditions? What is its arkan? What is its pillars? What is its wajibat? Obligations? What is its sunan? Recommendations? Right? It's important to learn this in all actions that we do. So that we do our actions not only with sincerity, but upon misguidance. But sincerely upon guidance. You know, so that it is righteous deeds done with sincerity. So a righteous deed is that which is done with sincerity and in accordance with the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah Ta'ala increase us in knowledge, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us with the knowledge that He grants us. إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه وصلى الله على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين.